Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with me, AirsickHydra. Within this, I'm going to be playing Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 as the Elder Corsairs, and we're going to be going against the dreaded Tyranids, the boarding Tyranid fleet of doom. So, this video was taken a couple of weeks ago, the benefit of that being that I've largely forgotten what happened. Well, I have a vague idea, but hopefully that's going to make things a little bit more exciting for me to do a cast of as well. Now, getting onto the map, the right-hand side is obviously looking pretty congested with points. We've got a high density over there, and you'll notice as well I am using, I forget the name of their ship, the Eclipse. That's right, we're using fighters. Is that going to be a good idea? Probably not. Am I going to get full use of them? Probably not. We have the range upgrades for our flagship, so we're basically getting as much as we can. I think we've got the range and the reload upgrade rather, so that should hopefully be fairly helpful. Actually, against Tyranids, I quite like the runic targeting upgrade for the flagship, just to give you that extra range. Why? Because, well, you're quite often heading away from the enemy, but of course most of your damage comes out in that sort of tiny little 30-degree frontal arc. So I'm going to charge forward and try and capture these points as quick as possible. We obviously have pretty decent speed, but the Tyranid does have a dash, then a command skill, then another dash, so that's something to be mindful of. And we've got some fighters that we can use to do a little bit of early scouting. Now what we're doing here is we're taking the flagship over on the left-hand side. Now the assumption at this point is that there is going to probably be the majority of the fleet on the right-hand side and perhaps an escort or two on the left. So hopefully we'll get to kill the escort or two on the left and everything will go well. Now what I've not done is use fighters from my flagship. I think looking back, ideally I probably would have spawned the flagship in the middle, sent out some fighters as well as the probe from there, then headed to the left. It would have taken maybe another 5 to 10 seconds to get there, but he wouldn't have known exactly where my flagship is. Having sent that probe out, now he knows my flagship is on the left side of the map. So we can see him capturing one there. It's ticking up fairly quick, which says to me there's probably a couple of units there at least. So we're eyeing up fighters right now, thinking, should I do this, should I not? And it seems like I'm parking my flagship on the edge of the area here, basically to wait to see if it changes colour and illuminates, meaning that there's some enemy ships there, meaning that we can go and squish them. So basically waiting and trying to engage safely and slowly and cautiously, but we'll see how that works out. So sending out more fighters now to make myself sort of like a screen that is going to be pretty hard to penetrate, and we do have the probe pausing just shy of where the enemy fleet is. Now, let's go and investigate this point. It seems that I've just remembered what happens here. No spoilers from Hydra, but let's see what happens. And oh dear, that is quite a few enemy ships. Fortunately, the micro warp jump is there to save the day, but once we've jumped, let's have a look at this. 14 stacks, so instantly and call to arms. Going to try and repopulate. Oh no, not call to arms there. We need a... Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So that's going to save me a total of 14 troops, but that looks like I'm at least going down to the yellow. That's not too good. We got some pretty weak looking ships right here, but we do have 3 points to our name. So that's going to be at least a few objectives coming in and a few points coming in. So 9 left, that's definitely going to be me down to the yellow, which is going to mean I'm going to be taking a critical hit. And it's only going to be like 1 or 2 more boarding actions and that ship will be scuttled. So looking pretty hairy right now. Now the enemy has just captured this, so we know there's a couple of units in here. There's one, and it does seem like it's probably a good idea to try and take it down. There may have been another one that just about managed to make it out. Now we have managed to try and repopulate my crew, and it looks like we've just about managed to prevent it from getting into the red. So the call to arms here has probably prevented this from being scuttled, I would say, combined with being sort of repopulated by my other ships. But oh boy, a little bit hairy, and you can see my weapons are also on the old yellow. So now we can finally go out of that stance, and we have 99 seconds, unfortunately, until we can do a repair. But what we can do is take out this escort, and you can see some fighters coming in too. So the enemy fleet is over on the left-hand side. Very, very fighter-heavy. You can see from those ships, they each have 6 launch bays, and that's pretty scary because those launch bays are quite nasty. Basically, stripping down your turrets and then going for your troops is probably going to be his main sort of method of killing, and thus far 1/3 of my fleet is looking pretty bad, so that's not too ideal. And you'll see my flagship as well is seeming to be missing its sort of primary weapons right now, which is a little bit of a concern. So we're going to go capture this point up top. We are a fair few points up right now, 300, but that could swing very, very quickly. We've got 51 seconds for our probe to come off of cooldown. That's looking a little bit concerning. We know that he does have some fighters down here in the gas cloud, but perhaps we can basically purge them out and reclaim this as our territory and somewhere that we can sit here and camp. So obviously slowly restocking with crew from my escorts onto this, because if an escort gets boarded, it's going to die either way. So as long as the escort stays on green crew, I'm quite happy to just repopulate the ship a little bit more. We do have also a lonely escort up here. I think it's probably a good idea to send that up and out the way as a fleet come along to try and, presumably to try and re-stealth within the asteroid field. So nearly captured on the top right. You can see we've got some boarding torpedoes heading up there too. And we're 3 seconds away from finally getting that repair for my flagship, which means I'll have some more weaponry to actually make use of. I presume it's the very long-range pew-pew weapon. I forget the name of the damn thing that's probably... Come on, Hydra, remember the repair button. That's probably out of action right now. We also have some fighters on the defensive position right now on my ships in the top right. And hopefully they're going to try and prevent those boarding torpedoes from doing some work against me. So there we go, we've finally repaired. Still on the reload stance, so now we can actually do some shooting with this ship and make use of probably what's the highest damage ship in the game. Huge amount of burst damage comes from this, absolutely wicked. Now, I probably could have moved up a little bit further forward there and decided to shoot from scan from a slightly closer distance would have been ideal, because currently there's two ships and I don't actually know where they are, which is, well, a little bit concerning. And main priority here is to keep this ship stealthed, because if it's not stealthed, it's going to have a bad time. So he sent out some more fighters against me, and obviously they seem to be getting a little bit confused. The AI and pathing seems to be sort of all over the place. I'm going to be sending out some fighters of my own. I don't think I'm going to get much use of the bombers in this, I really don't. Get the escort capturing the left-hand side of the map, which I think is going to be pretty pivotal. Map control in this, because I'm pretty much losing the combat side of things, at least in terms of my ship's population. I think it's going to be everything. Now, you see, I have been boarded, and I am losing troops from the top ships as well, so that's not too good. So one of the Eclipse is going to be down to yellow very soon. And we have managed to put quite a few fires on one of his larger ships, so that's nice. Hopefully that's going to be helpful, and he does manage to ram his own ship. Now he's got the lightning strike here, which is where these extra boarding actions are coming from. We did also have some feeding tubes on me, which isn't so good as well. Sails are damaged, everything's looking pretty bad for one of these ships here, which is now on, unfortunately, red crew. And with 2 stacks left, I think it's fairly possible with 1 crit. Yep, that's 1 crit, so that's going to be a scuffled ship. And that's going to be a bit of a problem for me right now. But we might be able to take this ship down fairly quick. And we just about managed to make it out of there. Now, the scuttle is only going to damage the shield, so I would say that was not a good choice. That was not a smart thing to do, and I would not recommend doing it. But force of habit, scuttled it anyway, and aha, we have been spotted down here. So I'm not exactly sure what spotted me, but he has found me out, and I am being chased by his flagship right now, which is, again, a little bit of a problem. But we're climbing ahead in terms of points. He has just got about 350 due to killing my ship, but we're about to get 300 in return if we manage to actually kill this ship, and it's very slowly going down, but my damage seems to have really been sort of somewhat gimped by, the lack of crew, presumably. But we still have fighters. We do also have some bombers, which maybe one day we'll make use of. However, we do have the slight issue to contend with that he has pretty much infinite fighters himself, so all he has to do is use a command every now and again. Oh, that was interesting. A suicidal ram. Well, there you go. Now I've seen everything. Tyranids, kamikaze Tyranid, there you go. Now, red crew, not too good. I think we're going down to red with this ship, so that's not particularly ideal. Engines are taking us away into the sunset. Still have some, so 1 more boarding action is going to be the end of us, from a large ship at least. Going to be doing the probe up here just to keep an eye on where the enemy is, and going to be trying to keep a distance and maybe take down this ship. So fighters are heading on over as well, and hopefully they'll do a good job of keeping a visual on this unit. And we do have a scan just here as well. That's perfect, so we can keep it marked, which means we can keep on shooting it. Might be an idea here to go into runic targeting stance. I know it would sacrifice a little bit of range and firepower, but at the same time it would mean I could kite at an angle, and this is where I really like that that ability. Although I would say, hands down, since they've basically nerfed it so it only applies the upgrade, that is, to the flagship, it's obviously not as good as it once was. So we're going to have to be super careful here with the flagship, because if he gets close enough to board me one more time, well, that's basically curtains for me. That was the feeding tube, which has just been used, so that's good. But still has a fair bit of health. That's something like 800 hull points I think he's got left. But hull point wise, map point wise, we're going up fairly slowly. And it looks like we're heading toward a victory. We need another 700, so this is still going to take a while. This is going to take a few minutes, and if he manages to kill my flagship, which will give him in the region of... Oh, that was close. And that's a boarding action, though. That was a little bit unlucky, but that was probably his last Void Lurker. So, well, we managed to get our flagship out, but the flagship is also a little bit dead now. Bad idea from me. I just did a bad thing. I did the boarding action from my escort before I got scuttled. I should have waited. So we've got a scuttled ship down south, got a scuttled flagship here. Things are looking a little bit hairy for me. Doesn't seem that I'm going to have the damage to kill anything. And we've got 80 seconds near enough until we've got another boarding action. But we do have some good map control. We do have 2 escorts left. We may still win. Right, so let's have a little peep. We've got escort over on the left, which is basically sat there chilling right now. Could be coming over to help recruit. That would be nice. 1 minute until we can repopulate one of our ships. There we go. Wake up, Hydra. Here comes the escort to try and save the day. And you'll see the points are going up pretty quick too. We've got 4 points captured on the map overall, so this is pretty good. The fact that I managed to kill that escort, the fact that the enemy doesn't have too many escorts has been really, really helpful. If he had maybe 1 less of these light cruisers and maybe 3 more escorts, I think this would have been curtains for me, because he would have been able to just occupy a much larger space. Mind you, at the same time, it would have meant less boarding actions, which might have also helped me, so who knows. But my main ship is absolutely smothered in it with these harpies right now. Fortunately, they don't do any damage, they just destroy turrets. And although Tyranids have some awesome fighters and torpedoes, they don't actually have bombers, so he can't actually destroy my ships unless he goes right up to them, sets them on fire, and well, things of that nature. So the good thing is I have opportunity to try and recapture my ships, and you can see him frantically going to try and capture the map back now, but it looks like it probably is a little bit too late, but let's see how this game ends. Got a option to change stance here with our little ship, because it does have Shroud Hull. We don't actually have to be in silent running. But I've kept it in silent running anyway, just to be on the cautious side. Just in case it does get spotted, I can quickly run out, go back into stealth again, and I know the stance is there. Now, we've got 1 ship that we've reclaimed, and unfortunately, if we recapture our flagship here, all that's going to happen is he's going to lightning strike it, and then it's going to have a bad day again. So that could be a little bit of a problem. But we've got our tiny little ship here. It's actually doing some respectable damage to his shields. He really wants to capture this point. You can kind of tell that. Kind of needs to capture it with less than something like 70 points left. It's pretty much game over now, but let's see how this ends. And a quick dash away. Oh, very close, very close. We're just currently toying with the idea of getting some more space. There we go. So we do also have the option very, very soon of recapturing. Should have done a repair there with that ship first as well. That was a bit dumb. Now we have the option of trying to kill a ship at least to finish the day. Best way to finish a game against Tyranids. And I reckon actually we've only killed an escort in this. I don't think we've actually killed anything else. We've taken a few ships low. No, there was the 1 ship that did kamikaze. That was interesting. And only one way to end a game against Tyranids. There comes the GGs, and that is to try and squish them. So let's see if an Elder squishes a bug. Okay, kind of predictable, and there goes my last troop. But of course, the best way to take out a Tyranid is to ram them and then scuttle yourself, sacrifice yourself for the greater good. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. We will be covering the latest beta whenever the hell it comes out. Could really do with it right now. I feel like this game needs a little bit of a kick up the backside and get a few more players sort of enthusiastic, let's say, again. Guys, you've been wonderful. I'll see you around and have yourself a great week.